Welcome to the Glass Ceiling Breaker webinar. If you are a woman who is a leader or an aspiring leader, then you are in the right place. I'm Dr. Michio Ambrosius, and today I will be interviewed by Cynthia Stott on breaking through the glass ceiling. Cynthia, why don't you introduce yourself?
Great. Thank you, Dr. Michio. I am so excited to be here interviewing you and honored to be interviewing you today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cynthia Stott, creator of thespeakersummit.com, and I am so excited to be interviewing Michio. She has been a clinical psychologist for over 20 years and has worked with hundreds of people and especially enjoys working with women leaders, supporting you to become more powerful, wiser, and better leaders. She's an international speaker, best-selling author, and mentor to media professionals, coaches, and successful business leaders and owners. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Dr. Michio? Now that we've gotten to know you just a little bit, we want to make sure to know some of the behind the scenes and how you got started. I know you have a great story about how you broke through your own glass ceiling, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear it.
Yes, the story begins when I was 14 years old. A newspaper article caught my eye. It told of a young woman who committed suicide clutching a pair of red high-heel shoes. You see, I was born in Japan, and especially back in those days, women were controlled by parents, devalued by society, and not given the opportunity to exercise our unique talents and capabilities. I decided then and there that this would not be my fate. I would go to America, the land of opportunity. I worked and saved my pennies. Well, they were actually yen, of course, in those days, until I had enough money for cargo boat ticket. I set sail across the Pacific with only $200 in my pocket.
Wow, Dr. Michio. I love to hear that story every single time. And I don't know if I would say I love it, but it's very interesting that your glass ceiling breaking started when you were only 14 years old. I think that is really powerful. You were only 14 and you decided then and there that that was not the life for you. And I love that you really pulled yourself up by your own bootstraps and on your own got yourself to America. That's fabulous.
Well, because I was desperate for freedom.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Desperate for freedom. And unfortunately, I think these days I feel a little desperate for freedom myself. Well, we wanted to talk a bit about the purpose of this Glass Ceiling Breaker webinar. It's to discuss a new type of woman leader. Can you share a bit more about this new kind of woman leader, Michio?
Yes. This new leader leads from the female perspective as well as from the male perspective. This new female leader is more integrated, mature, and humane.
I love it. An integrated leader, integrating male and female energies. Love it. Well, for those of you listening and watching us, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that Dr. Michio emailed you a handout that we will use a little later on in this webinar. So you may wish to go ahead and print it out now so you can participate fully. And that includes the Glass Ceiling Breaker Self-Discovery Sheet and the Glass Ceiling Breaker Writing Exercise. Very powerful exercises we're going to go over in just a few minutes. Well, the role of women in business and as leaders is changing. Can you share more of your thoughts about this, Dr. Michio?
Okay. Business experts recognize that having more women in leadership roles is good for business. Women leaders can improve financial results, bring more innovation, and ease the talent shortage. Women are financially being recognized for contributions they make in leadership and are being sought after for high-level executive positions. In fact, many Fortune 500 company shareholders, especially in the Silicon Valley, are demanding integrated boards of directors that include women because of the increased financial results that they bring.
Wow. I just want to make sure our listeners heard that, Dr. Michio. Company shareholders, especially in Silicon Valley, are demanding integrated boards of directors that includes women because they know it can improve the bottom line. Did I hear that right?
Yes. There has been a shortage of women leaders that are trained and ready to take these high-powered positions. Consequently, there is a movement to train and mentor women to become effective board members and business leaders. According to the New York Times, having women in the highest corporate offices is correlated with increased profitability, according to a new study of nearly 22,000 publicly traded companies in 91 countries. In addition, they stated that an increase in the share of women from 0 to 30% would be associated with a 15% rise in profitability.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I love that, and I love statistics. I have a degree in statistics, so I really love it. But I just want to make sure that everybody heard that again. So a study of nearly 22,000 publicly traded companies in 91 countries. So you're not talking about a small sample here. And across the board, there's a correlation between having women in highest corporate offices and profitability. I love that. That's an incredible increase. Now, no wonder companies are demanding diverse boards and executives that include women. It's not for no reason, that's for sure.
Right. What we're talking about today is not something that can be trained or learned in a book. However, it supports you to have more desire and motivation to exercise your unique talents and abilities. Furthermore, it will enable you to stand in your power as a leader, even when facing difficult challenges.
Wow, this is very exciting. Can you tell me more about becoming a glass ceiling breaker?
Okay. In the 21st century, we need a different type of women leader. Women who can lead not by trying to be like men, as some proposed in the women's liberation movement in the past, but rather to lead by integrating the best parts of the male and female perspectives. In order to have such women leaders, a mindset change needs to occur because most boys and girls are treated differently even before birth. Some women have had the benefit of growing up with enlightened and forward-thinking parents. However, most of us were not so lucky.
I was not so lucky. Sounds like you weren't so lucky.
That's why I left.
Exactly. And boys and girls are often treated differently, even when we try not to. It's so ingrained in us. It almost seems innate. Some of it may be biological, but much of it is cultural, and we can break through that as we break through the glass ceiling. Okay, great. Well, I love this slide.
It demonstrates how that even from the very first day of their existence, most boys are expected to be strong, confident, powerful, express their opinions, and believe in themselves. They are taught to be decisive, action-oriented, bold, courageous, brave, competitive, and to be a winner and a leader.
Yeah, let's take a look at that's so true. And it seems to be innate, but it is, a lot of it is how we view men, even us women, how we view our sons. So let's take a look at the girls and how are they treated differently.
Well, from the first day of birth, most girls are expected to be nice, sweet, quiet, helpful, service-oriented, beautiful, stylish, neat, clean, kind, polite, mindful of manners, and are sometimes trained to value the opinion of others more than their own.
Wow. So true. Absolutely. I used to have a yoga master that said American women are dying of too much nice. Right. And I agree. I agree. Okay, so we get it. Girls and boys are treated differently even from birth. But what can we do about that, Dr. Michio? How can we make the shift for ourselves and seeing ourselves differently so we can really become powerful leaders?
Okay. Well, first, let's question what is leadership. It is the ability to get people to do something they may not do on their own accord. For example, John F. Kennedy declared that America would send men to the moon and set in motion events to actualize that goal. 10 years after his declaration, we witnessed the results. Over 50 years later, we are now recognizing that women greatly contributed to the accomplishment of this goal. Popular belief has been that girls are not naturally skilled at math and science as men are. However, thanks to the book and movie Hidden Figures, it is now common knowledge that it has the mathematical and scientific work of women that made the first manned flight to the moon possible.
Wow. You know, I was a child of the 70s, and actually that rocket landed on the moon when I was about 3 years old.
You were told later on. Right?
I learned later on. But, you know, there was this carryover, and I grew up thinking girls are not as good at math and science, and I actually had dyslexia. And so in college, in high school, I never finished Algebra 1. Wow. Yeah, when I went to college, I enjoyed math and I enjoyed science because I enjoyed the teachers. That really made the difference for me. And I actually ended up getting a degree in statistics, going through calculus and all high levels of math. And actually the higher in math I got, the easier it got for me. So I found that I was naturally good at math and science.
Well, that's fascinating and amazing for the perseverance you put through to achieve that goal.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Well, then when I found out, I studied in astrophysics and cosmology and particle physics in college as well. God.
You are very forward-looking woman.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I wanted to get a PhD, but I thought, well, I want to have children and all that, so I better do something else, and that's why I settled on statistics.
Oh.
But I actually was considering going into the Navy and working on nuclear subs at one point, but I didn't want to be involved in the war.
Right.
Yeah.
That's messy.
Yeah.
Messy situation.
Messy situation. Didn't want to do that.
Crazy.
Crazy. But I learned that, I was easy with math and science. But when I heard about this movie, I haven't read the book, but I watched the movie, Hidden Figures, I got angry, really angry, because I had been lied to my whole life, being told that math and science wasn't for women, and yet these women were the ones that got us to the moon. If we hadn't had these women working out brand new math in order to get us to the moon, Neil Armstrong would have burned up in his test flight.
Oh, for sure. And more than that, I was angry about the way they were treated at the advanced facility as spaceship making.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Their mentality was so different. Yeah. And we are lucky to have mindset we have now.
Absolutely. And these weren't just women. These were Black women, African American women that were treated horribly in segregated bathrooms that were far away. And again, that perseverance is what really helped us. And I know the math for one of them was worked out, but also even programming the computers was another one of the Black women that had to learn Fortran by stealing the book from the library because they wouldn't lend it to her because she wasn't white. And she actually taught them Fortran and got the computers to work when these white men couldn't do it. So it's really got me upset that there was this idea that women are not good at math and science, and we were the ones that got us to the moon.
Well, that proves that determined women can move a mountain or send a rocket ship to the moon.
Absolutely. And I actually had the privilege of meeting the first African-American astronaut, female astronaut, May Robinson, I think her name is. And she was a keynote at one of my conferences when I was on the board of directors for the Women in Transportation. And she told us that NASA's first study to determine who would be best to go into space flight was women.
And they have endurance,
and emotionally they're more capable of handling that kind of situation. But it was LBJ, the president, Lyndon B. Johnson, that vetoed it and said no way was he going to have women going up in space. So if it hadn't been for his veto, women would have not only been the ones creating the math that got us there, they would have actually been in the rocket ship, and it would have been Neilette Armstrong.
That's beautiful. Wow, quite amazing how women have been held back. Next, let's look at what's needed in order to be a leader, whether you are a woman or a man. 1, you need to recognize and accept challenges. 2, have a vision for how to address those challenges. 3, take decisive action. 4, be courageous. And 5, know how to solve problems effectively.
Wow. Clearly this list is different than the list of characteristics we listed for baby girls. I mean, very different. Somewhat similar to the ones that we listed for baby boys. So I can see how baby boys are being groomed for this, whereas baby girls are not. Right.
From day one.
Absolutely.
Yes, most women are disadvantaged from becoming a leader based on these criteria when viewed from the standpoint of upbringing and parental societal expectations as we discussed earlier. However, women have other attributes different from the above list of leadership characteristics that are just as valuable. Not all women possess these characteristics, but they are generally thought to possess them in greater quantities than most men. Alternatively, many men have developed these characteristics as well. They are A, intuition, B, collaboration rather than competing, C, persuasion rather than being authoritative and argumentative, D, women have broader views than men who tend to be more narrowly focused, E, women are more accommodating, inclusive, and aim for win-win situations rather than win-lose situations.
Wow. This list includes so many valuable traits, and a lot of these are valuable even for men, and we're finding that out today. Isn't that right, Dr. Michio? A lot of the modern leadership models are looking at some of these more, quote, feminine leadership traits as ideal even for men.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes, many highly regarded leadership books like Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People to the benefit of these traits. Women can be exceptional leaders if they are able to combine the first and the second set of characteristics.
Dr. Michio, on this vast gap between how women are brought up and the characteristics needed for leadership, how do we close the gap so that we can break through the glass ceiling?
Well, here's the biggest challenge women leaders face. In order to become effective and operate from both male and female perspectives and exhibit all of the characteristics we discussed, you must first clean up your past painful experiences.
Absolutely, I agree. Past painful experiences can keep us small and prevent us from moving forward and having the success that we desire. And I know that that's a huge block. It has been for me in the past and also for my clients. I call it, you've got to do the inner work in order to do the outer work. Without doing the inner work, the outer work doesn't work.
That's true. Yes, let's start with a few examples of painful experiences. Accident of any kind, including injuries. Losses of any kind, including the loss of loved ones such as spouse, partner, siblings, children, close friends, even pets. Or the loss could be a large amount of money, home, health, mental or physical capacity, job or professional identity. Painful experiences can result from abuse of any kind, including bullying. The problem is a lot of people do not realize how much of influence and effect those incidents we experience have on us. In addition, assault or sexual violation, trauma can even result from something as simple as being laughed at by a group of other girls in high school.
So true. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, being laughed at by other children is not huge, but to the person that it happens to at the time, it's gigantic. That is really traumatizing. And so that can definitely be a trauma that holds us back, especially if we're being laughed at by our peers. We can think the same thing's going to happen to me now. So, Dr. Michio, why is it that these painful memories seem to take on a life of their own and keep resurfacing, even though we try to get rid of them again and again? They just keep popping up.
Yeah, that's a good question. Unlike normal everyday memories, painful memories go into the deeper part of the brain, especially in the right side, and a part of the brain that is connected to emotional responses called amygdala, which is located in a deeper layer of the brain. The memories get stuck there and are crystallized with strong emotions that are felt at the time of the incident. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Absolutely true. This is so interesting. So the memories and the emotions form a bond, and that's why they're so difficult to get rid of. Is that it?
Yes. Well, the two sides of the brain have different functions. The left side of the brain is analytical, rational, and verbal, while the right side of the brain is instinctive, emotional, and non-verbal. And at the time of a painful incident, emotions crystallize with a memory in the right side of the brain and get stuck there. Consequently, the memory does not get the benefit of the left side brain functioning, such as analytical, rational thinking, and verbal expression. Furthermore, if the memory is not properly processed and resolved, stuck memories cause symptoms such as anxiety, depression, and these can inhibit the proper functioning of the left side of the brain, including logic, decision-making, and problem-solving, which are critical for leaders.
Okay. Dr. Michio, you have a PhD in psychology. I know. And you understand this very deeply. But I think it's important for us to kind of geek out at this point and talk about the right and the left side of the brain. Mm-hmm. But I just want to make sure that our listeners really get and understand how that works in layman's terms, in real life terms. And so let's just try to keep this simple. Are you saying that the emotions and the memory actually get stuck in the right side of the brain?
Yes. So let's make it more easy to understand. At the time these incidents occurred, you may have felt powerless, helpless, incapacitated, especially if you're a child or an adult in certain circumstances. The memory and the feeling from the painful incident are crystallized together, and you may continue to feel powerless, even though you're now an adult and in a different situation or environment.
So let's go back, Dr. Michio. I think we stepped ahead a little bit here. I just want to make sure that you're sharing with us so fully. So you talk about that the memory gets crystallized with the emotions that the person felt at the time of the incident. So do you mean that our emotions, like feeling small, unworthy, not good enough, actually get stuck in our brain with the memory? Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. That they come together and are kind of a package deal at this point. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to shift them out together, as it were.
Right.
Because if either side gets stuck in there and stays in there, then you're just going to keep going back to the same pattern.
That's correct. And unless they are treated in special ways, those memories and perception of the memory, which was, at the time of the incident, was very shocking, and therefore they must have felt very powerless and helpless. Mm-hmm. And that perception of themselves gets stuck in their subconscious and cannot get rid of them without having some special technique applied on them. Stays there forever.
So maybe that's why sometimes, even though we're now in our 40s or 50s or 60s, and we're much more capable, and we've had some positive experience with things, we sometimes revert back to just those feelings like we're, 5 or 6 or 14, where we weren't capable. And that's because it's all stuck there in the right side. Maybe some residue of that is stuck there in the right side of the brain and needs to be energetically and physically moved out of there. Is that right?
That's right. And because of the memory being stuck there, we form limiting beliefs such as I'm not good enough, I'm not valuable, or I'm not lovable or worthy. That type of limiting beliefs hold people back.
Okay, great. So let me get this straight. Those feelings are tied to the memory, and they keep coming up because they're stuck in the right side of the brain.
Yes. When you remember the incident, even if something happens that reminds you in some way of the incident, you may feel like it only happened yesterday, even if it has been decades or a person causing you the pain has already passed away. And that's called like being triggered.
Being triggered. Wow. Yes. Wow. So that makes a lot of sense. Now I understand why some of the things my mother or father said or did still bother me, or bother me until I work on and release the pain of that memory. And they get stuck there. Probably especially because they're my father or my mother or someone that I really trusted, an authority in my life and loved.
Needed to be loved.
Absolutely.
Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't usually go away on its own. It also may not be released with talking therapy because the memory is not in the cognitive layer of the brain. In order to be able to resolve it by talking about it, it would need to reside in the cognitive part of your brain, but it is much deeper than that.
Well, that makes sense as to why it never went away when I just talked about it. In fact, it seemed to multiply sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's right. When you talk about it, the memory is refreshed and more not resolved. And concretized. The right side of your brain deals with your nonverbal experiences. The memory is in picture form, not in verbal form, and therefore must be resolved and released below the verbal level. So talking isn't usually enough.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to look at this, pause and look at this slide here with you, Dr. Michio. So the left side of the brain is the chief executive brain, and it's the analytical, rational, verbal. But the right side is more connected to the survival of the brain and the body, and it's instinctive, emotional, and nonverbal, and that's where these emotions usually get stuck. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And so emotion rules you and holds you back.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because you felt powerless or even were in shock when the incident originally occurred, you naturally were hindered from thinking clearly or making good decisions. Because you may still have a subconscious perception of yourself based upon the incident as powerless, incapacitated, helpless, you may still harbor those perceptions even though you are now an adult or in a different environment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about a few minutes ago. This really explains why I'm a perfectly capable person, and I sometimes feel as if I'm inadequate, or I'm right back in the 4th grade.
Well, of course, people do not realize how children's brain do not mature until about 23 or 24. So the incidents they experience are, dealt with very, very young brain. So, yes, that's why it is extremely important to move these stuck painful memories through the resolution channels by getting through both the right and left side of the brain.
Great. So, Michio, how do we do that?
That's another good question. I developed a very unique technique for this purpose. It is a brain integrating technique that is highly effective because it integrates not just the left and right side of the brain, but also the physical cell memories.
Whoa, wait a minute. So our memories are not just in our brains or our minds. They're actually in our cells, in our bodies. Can you explain more about that, Michio?
Yes. These memories, especially if they have a strong emotion attached to them, all the time of the incident, body reacts and the memory gets trapped literally in your cells. We call this cell memory.
Oh, I see. Okay. Similar to like athletes who try to practice until they get the correct movements in their muscle or cell memory. Strong emotions and events can actually be trapped in our cell memory and need to be released. Is that correct? So it's really physically inside of our cells, and we need to release it from that space, not just our minds.
That's right. Yes, unlike athletes who want to retain that muscle memory in order to achieve higher performance, these negative incidents hinder us from higher performance because they are trapped in the cells of our body and brain. This is why some women keep on marrying the same kind of man as their father who may have abused them.
Again, one of my yoga masters used to say, different face, same energy. You divorce and then you just marry the same one again, or maybe in some cases you marry your father again and again and again until you get that abuse pattern yanked out of your cells, really. I mean, it's got a hook in there. It's been there a long time. There must be a lot of, inertia wanting to stay there, and you really have to use momentum to push it out. Wow.
So that is why the energy of these memories must be released from both the body and the brain. This is the reason I designed this brain integrating technique. After using this technique to resolve these painful memories and traumas, you can move forward and upward more powerfully and break through your glass ceiling.
Awesome. I love this. Okay, I think I'm done with the kicking out. Yeah, TMI. My brain's about to explode. So could you switch, because we've learned a lot of the information, the ins and outs of the right side and the left side of the brain and why it's important to move it out. Can you give us some down-to-earth concrete examples, maybe from your client?
Oh, yes.
And by the way, what is the name of this technique?
It's called tongue twisting neurobilateral processing, and we can say NBP for short.
Wow, I'm glad there's not going to be a name on it. So let's just call it NBP. That's for neurobilateral processing. Maybe it would help people to break it down a little bit. The neuro is the neuron, like in the brain, and bilateral is both sides processing. So it's breaking down it's a process to integrate both sides of the brains and their neurology. Great.
And body cells as well.
And body cells as well. I love it.
Okay.
I love the mind-body integration that happens with it.
For sure. Okay, so here's an example. One of my clients was a 38-year-old woman. Let's call her Mary. She suffered from so much anxiety that she couldn't leave her house, even to go to the grocery store. In our first session, she could not remember any past experiences that would account for her level of anxiety. The only incident she could remember was when she was a child and her grandmother got mad at her and threw away all of her dolls. That was upsetting, of course. Based on this information, I apply the brain integrating technique that I developed for trauma. Mary went home feeling lighter that afternoon, but she came back the following week and she said, "Dr. Michio, you won't believe what I have remembered. I was sexually abused by a teacher when I was 16 years old." She had completely blocked out this memory. When I applied the technique again, her whole body shook as she released this painful emotional barrier from both her mind and body once and for all.
Wow. That's amazing. I love it. I love that the powerful technique affected the body, not just the mind, and then through affecting the body, also affected her mind. I love it. I love it. So what happened then?
Shortly after that, she started her own business, began working with international clients, and I'm happy to say she has a very successful business. And by the way, she's able to go to the grocery store or anywhere else she chooses now.
Awesome. Great. Well, I love a happy ending. But this was an extreme case. You know, not everybody is so affected that they can't leave their house. Mm-hmm. What about those of us that aren't so extreme?
Okay. Yes, I understand your concerns. You and your listeners are probably not in such a dire situation like Mary was. You can probably leave your home with no problem. However, how often do you want to hide under the covers or have trouble making a decision that sticks? Or maybe you are anxious, procrastinate, or feel overwhelmed. Here's the thing. These things that you may suffer from may seem quite harmless and maybe even normal. But what if they are what's holding you back from being and doing all that you want? What if they are what stands between you and breaking through the glass ceiling? This brain integrating technique supports you to unleash your true power. It also supports you to savor the success that you create.
That's so important. Sometimes we have that success, but we can't enjoy it. I believe that not enjoying it also prevents us from having more success. So what can we do about that?
Well, yes, we are wired for pleasure. The more we enjoy something like success, the more we are going to want it and therefore have it. Maybe you have had success, but you haven't been able to enjoy your success fully. Maybe a sense of inadequacy holds you back from enjoying more success and truly breaking through the glass ceiling. This was a case for another one of my clients. Susan was a college professor who had achieved a lot of success but didn't enjoy it. Susan and her family were from Vietnam and lived through the Vietnam War. The day before the war ended, a stray bullet struck her brother. She tried desperately to save him, but couldn't. He died in her arms.
Oh, that's horrible. What a terrible thing to live through, to have your brother die right in your arms and you can't do anything about it. Wow.
Understandably, her brother's death was very tragic and traumatic experience for her. But more than that, Susan felt horrendous responsibility for her brother's death, even though there was nothing she could have done to prevent it. She suffered from survival guilt for decades.
That's so understandable. Wow.
Even when she became a highly successful and well-paid professor, she always felt irritated and angry and could not enjoy her success. She felt inadequate and like she did not deserve her success.
Yeah, feelings like you don't deserve your success can really hold you back from achieving and enjoying more. Wow.
Yes. When Susan worked with me, she was able to release the pain and guilt from her brother's death. She came to realize and internalize that his death was not her fault. She was able to let go of her guilt and finally enjoy her success. Perhaps your situation is not as extreme as Susan. Most likely, your brother didn't die in your arms. Nonetheless, for some reason, you may feel guilty or inadequate about the success you already have. How would your life be different if you felt deep down inside that you deserved your success? Do you think you would feel free to pursue more of the success you desire? What's holding you back? Maybe you suffer from anxiety or procrastination. These are symptoms of having those memories.
Great question. Now, remember, Dr. Michio did email you the Glass Ceiling Breaker Self-Discovery and Writing Exercise Sheets. So this is the time for you to take them out, and we can work on them together right here on the webinar. So take them out and fill in your answers, and you might be surprised at what your answers have to say.
Okay, let's start with a self-discovery sheet. Check off what's blocking you on your worksheet. Are you facing any of these difficulties? Procrastination, difficulty concentrating, forgetfulness, overwhelmed, difficulty getting up in the morning, insomnia, irritability, anxiety, dread, fearfulness, chronic pain or headaches, sadness, nightmares or flashbacks. Add your own if you don't see them here. How would you rather be? Focused, motivated, enthusiastic, confident, calm, joyful, happy, powerful, capable, determined, purposeful, resilient, and your own if you don't see them here. Now, take out the writing exercise sheet and answer the following questions. I will read these questions and then you can write down your answers. I will pause for a minute after each question. If you're live with us on this webinar, you'll have chance to share your answers at the end of the call if you like. However, your answers are just for you, and you can share them only if you want to. Here are the questions. Question number 1. What's holding you back from breaking through your glass ceiling? I will pause for a minute so you can write down your answer. Again, what is holding you back from breaking through your glass ceiling? When we are silent, a minute feels like a long time. Okay, we move on to question number 2. How would your business and professional life be different if you are no longer held back? You can take your time and write down your answer as I pause. Again, how would your business and professional life be different if you're no longer held back? Now, this last question, number 3, is very important one. What is being held back costing you? Again, what is being held back costing you? Because most people do not realize this until you question. What did you find? Okay, so what did you find during the question? What is holding you back?
These are really thought-provoking questions, Dr. Michio. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. They can sometimes be difficult questions to answer, but it is worth it. Perhaps it's lack of confidence or knowing what to do next. Perhaps you discovered that what's holding you back is costing money, a promotion, or recognition. What if you could be more satisfied and successful. Would you like to find out how you could release what's holding you back? What if you could transform the pain from your past experiences? Then you would be free to break through your glass ceiling and enjoy the success you deserve.
And I bet you have a solution for us, don't you, Dr. Michio? I love this. It's like the punchline. I love it.
Yes. I have created a special program for you to take your next steps toward breaking through your glass ceiling. This is a private 45-minute call or Skype session called Break Through Your Glass Ceiling Assessment. In this session, you will discover and understand more deeply about what's holding you back. Find self-defeating beliefs and old emotional patterns that may be stopping you. Become aware of any old painful memories that might be standing in your way. Finally, you will learn how you could shift these memories so that you can create more success in your business, break through the glass ceiling, and have the impact you desire. In addition, you'll find out how you can feel more enjoyment of your success and believe that you can have all the success, happiness, and joy that you desire.
This is a great offer. I love this, Dr. Michio. I hope our listeners will take you up on it. So to make sure you can take advantage of Dr. Michio's special offer, go to www.drmichioambrosius.com. That's all one word. Dr. D-R, Michio, M-I-C-H-I-Y-O, Ambrosius. A, M like Mary, B like boy, R like Robert, O, S like Sam, I-U-S like Sam.com/glass ceiling assessment. We'll also probably have something on your screen there where you can click on glass ceiling assessment and go directly to Dr. Michio's webpage so you can sign up. Again, that's www.drmichioambrosius.com/glass ceiling assessment.
Yeah, in addition, I believe there will be an email sent out to you after the webinar. This assessment is an investment in yourself, in your present and your future. Just like Mary, who had no idea what was holding her back because she had repressed her most difficult memories. Often, when a client clears the painful emotions from one memory, others surface to be cleared. The end result for Mary was starting her own business and becoming a huge success with international clients.
Wow.
What results will you have once you clear what's standing in your way, once and for all? This assessment is regularly a $250 investment. Hundreds of people have received this assessment session and received insights into what was holding them back. Because you are on this webinar, I'm offering this introductory session to you at the very special price of $97.
Wow, very generous offer. Thank you, Dr. Michio.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
It's my pleasure.
I know you love working with people and releasing the emotional trauma so they can move forward. And a minute ago, you talked about an email that will be sent to our listeners, and that will have the link on it, the drmichioambrosius.com /glass ceiling assessment. So you can wait for that email if you like, and then click on the link and go directly to the assessment so you can sign up today. And then once you sign up, Dr. Michio will contact you to schedule your appointment. So thank you again, Dr. Michio.
You are very welcome. My pleasure. Really want to serve women leaders and support you to achieve your next level of success.
Beautiful. Thank you. So if this offer speaks to you and you want to take advantage of it, be sure to either go to the email that'll be sent to you, or I think it'll also be on the webinar screen, or if you want to just go directly, it's drmichioambrosius.com/glass ceiling assessment. Once there, you can just click on the special offer and Dr. Michio will contact you to schedule your assessment session so you can get started right away.
Yes, your time is now. I hope you will take advantage of special offer to find out what may be holding you back. Again, I have to mention that most people do not realize what's holding them back. And they spend years wondering why. Like Mary and Susan, your painful memories may have affected you for decades. Regular talking therapy is limited and may take months, years, or maybe even the rest of your life to be effective. You deserve to be released from your painful memories quickly so that you can move forward and break through your glass ceiling now. If you're not experiencing the success you want, or maybe you have had a lot of success but you aren't enjoying it, I encourage you to take action. Discover what's holding you back. You deserve success, happiness, and to make the impact you desire. It's your turn to break the glass ceiling and thrive.